name is Meng and welcome to the 8th section of the SwiftUI course. In this section, we're going to learn how to animate this menu on top of the home page. But also, we're going to need to create a component of this menu so that we can use it outside of the home page as its own component and it can be reused elsewhere on other screens. And since we're going to be using states as we've learned previously, we're going to need to learn how to do binding to a component so that we can pass those states so that everything is in sync and you can create really clean code at the same time. Right now we have this menu that is above the home page and we would like to have a button underneath so that we can toggle this menu. The first thing we need to do is to put this menu to be above using a Z-stack. So I'm going to embed this V-stack right here and let's put in H-stack for now. Then I'm going to switch this to a Z-stack. With this, I'm going to be able to have content underneath the menu. The first thing I'm going to create is a button. So right here before the V-stack, I'm going to insert a button like this. And the button is going to say Open Menu. You're not going to see the button yet, and make sure that you stop your preview. You're going to see that the button is right underneath. And the thing that we need to do is to push the menu outside the bounds of the screen. So I'm going to go to my menu right here in the modifiers. I'm going to add offset, so dot offset. And the offset is going to push the X value using the screen dimension. In order to get the screen dimension, I need to use UI screen dot main dot bounds, and here I can use the width or the height of the screen. In this case, I'm going to use the width. So now it's outside but on the right. If I put minus, then it's going to be outside on the left. Okay, so now we can set the animation states. I'm going to declare the state var show, by default it's going to be false. And then I'm going to toggle the menu using the action of this button. So right here, inside the curly braces, I'm going to put self.show.toggle. Then I'm going to set my animation state to the offset so that it shows the menu when it's true. So I'm going to say show ? And if so, set it to 0. If not, hide it by using the width of the screen minus. So now we can resume and go ahead and preview this. I'm gonna click, it's gonna show. I just need to add the animation, but also add the ability to close this when I tap on the menu. First thing is to set the animation. I'm gonna put that before the offset because that's the better order. And I'm gonna put dot animation and then dot basic with no parameter. By default is already pretty good. Then I'm gonna add the tap action. So here dot tap action and then press enter here. To get the auto completion, we're gonna set self.show.toggle. So let's test it. We have a very simple slide in and out. Now let's add some 3D transform. So I'm gonna go before the animation after the shadow. Again, the order is very important. I'm going to insert in the modifiers the 3D rotation. Here I'm gonna set the animation states. So right before the number 90, I'm gonna set show ? Set it to 0 if the animation is active, and then else, then set it to 90 degrees. Let's see what it does. Okay, that's not bad. So what we can do here is maybe set the angle to be not as sharp, so we can set it to 60. And we can definitely play with the X, Y, and Z values. And in this case, I'm gonna set it so that the X value is 0 and the Z value is 0. Much better. Okay, so we have this home screen that's getting pretty crowded, as you can see here. We want to create a component just for the menu, but the thing is, we have some legacy stuff. we have these variables, and then we have this state. And the question is, how do we pass these things once we create the component? And how do we make it work still? First, let's create the component. So I'm gonna select this VStack right here. So command click, and then extract subview. And I'm gonna name it menu view. It's definitely gonna give me an error because when I scroll to that component, which is called the menu view, it's missing a bunch of values, right? We have the menu value, and then we have the show state that is not present. For the menu, it's quite easy. I'm gonna go and grab that. So all of this menu stuff that I experimented with, I can just copy and paste. In this case, I'm gonna cut it because I don't need here anymore. So cut and put it right here. For the show state, it's a little bit more complex because it needs to communicate with the parent component, which is the home, and the data has to be passed. So what I'm gonna do is to use binding. So I'm gonna go right here and put commercial A binding var show, and it's going to be of type Boolean. Now binding is very similar to Redux for React. It's going to manage the states and listen to the changes and pass between components. So this component is going to listen to the changes in the states from the parent component. But first of all, I'm gonna go to the parent component and make sure that I'm passing the state to my menu view. So here, I'm going to type show, which is the binding, and then I'm gonna put the show state. But instead of just putting show, I have to add $, which means that it's going to listen to the changes and it's going to synchronize. And that's all I had to do. SwiftUI is going to do the rest of the state management for me and synchronize the values for me. Now let's test it to see if it works exactly the same. I'm gonna click here and voila, everything works perfectly. So that's all for menu animation. Obviously, I would encourage you to customize your animations and play with it. Your menu can come from the top, from the right, from the bottom. Anything you can imagine, you can do it using SwiftUI. And we also learn how to set a component that has a lot of stuff, such as variables, but also states. And we learn how to communicate the states using binding, so that now we have a super clean view for the home page. And that's why it's important to create as many components as possible and be able to reuse them across the entirety of your app. In this case, if I wanted to, I can just summon this menu view from another screen. And that's the beauty of having components. And speaking of summoning views, in the next session, we're gonna learn how to summon an entire screen just like the menu. I'll see you in the next session.